Strange Destinations, the show where innovators share the tales of the accidents, the inspirations and the connections which led them to create their own unique paths. I'm your host, Dan O'Grady, co-founder of Simpatico, and this show is brought to you by Silicon Beach Radio. Now a quick word from our sponsors.
Silicon Beach Radio, proudly sponsored by Allied Legal, legal advisors to innovative businesses. MYOB, business software that sets you up for success. Victory Offices, flexible workspace solutions, premium serviced offices, co-working, lounge space, virtual office, and meeting spaces.
Welcome to this week's Strange Destinations. I'm here talking to Max Middleweek of Zero Impact. Max is doing some amazing things with two of my favourite things in the world, which is coffee and saving the planet. So Max, share a bit with us about what Zero Impact does.
So thanks for having me. It's really exciting to be speaking with you today. In terms of Zero Impact, we recycle waste coffee grounds from cafes into clean energy. So we actually have a product called brickies, which are coffee briquettes. They burn hotter and longer than firewood, super sustainable, and using waste as well, which we're really passionate about.
Wow. So where did the idea for that come from?
I think just seeing the waste in the industry. So I was a barista making coffees firsthand. And I think every barista knows, everyone in the cafe industry just sees how much waste is being made. And I think that just combined with my chemistry background from uni, I thought we kind of can make something out of this. Maybe we can burn it. And it's just been this kind of awesome journey since then.
Right. Okay. So you've got a chemistry background. So have you always had that science bend?
Yeah.
Grown over time.
I think unfortunately, mainly from my parents, I suppose, but they're both like sciencey kind of people. But yeah, just really curious about how things work. Mm-hmm. And so led down that path at uni because chemistry is a very broad subject. Yep. And learn a lot there, and kind of led me to this path now of making stuff, burning stuff. How does that?
So did you burn stuff as a kid?
Unfortunately, yes. I kind of got in trouble, I think, burning too many things, and especially at uni as well. You can actually burn stuff in the lab, and it's encouraged. So that's good.
Okay, right. And like when you were a kid, what were the kind of things that really fascinated you then?
Great question. Growing up, I'm from the UK originally, so I'm not from Australia. I think I was just a really curious child. I loved playing and just interacting with the world around me. Had a bit too big of an imagination, I think. So it was just often in my own head with a fantasy kind of world with my mates and everything. But yeah, just a regular upbringing, really. So
has the fantasy world ever managed to intersect with the real world, or have you managed to kind of keep them apart?
Well, I think it's healthy to have a big imagination and to have these fantasies. But I think the cool thing about doing Zero Impact, it's bringing that dream into reality. Mm-hmm. And I think it's very easy to have an idea, but it's a lot harder to actually execute on that. Yeah. So Zero Impact, the idea of doing something sustainable with a big positive impact to society has always been a dream of mine. But actually executing it and watching it come into play is just amazing. It's really exciting.
So was that not that conflict, but where you've got the plan and then you've got the execution? How do you see that those two parts interact and play out?
Interesting. That's kind of where the rubber meets the road, right? I suppose we carry a lot of assumptions. And those assumptions are tested as soon as you speak to real customers, real clients, real people that are going to pay for your product or use it. So it's really at that point of when it becomes a reality. You see customers using your product and actually transforming their businesses and transforming their life with something you've made, your company has made, is just amazing. So for brickies, for coffee briquettes, because they burn hotter and longer than firewood, it just means it's a completely different way of doing things for a pizza shop, for example, or for how you use firewood at home. It's just a different, much better way of doing it, I think.
Mm-hmm. And with those assumptions, is it you find that it's your assumptions that are challenged by, I guess, your customers and users, or is it their assumptions about the potential of your product and service that are the ones that are the biggest challenge for you getting your idea out there?
I think we've all been very encouraged by the support we've got from everyone we've worked with, from people in as baristas in the cafe industry, through to coffee roasters, through to the customer at the other end, or the final end. And I think for customers at the end, it's just, they almost don't need persuading. They can see the values, they can see what we're doing. It makes sense. Straightforward in the sense of, here's something I can burn, keeps me warm, really sustainable, and taking action on waste.
Yep.
So I think something that has guided me so far is just listening to those customers. Like, listen to everyone around you, take that in, and formulate something that people are actually going to want. I think it does take a bit of vision and sticking to your vision as well. So I think, interesting, like in the early days when I probably told people about this, people were like, this is crazy. Like, I don't believe you. But as time is going on, you get more credibility, and you get more sales and more partnerships and more money, etc. It's just because people are like, oh yeah, of course, that makes sense. Great idea.
Excellent. So being based in Melbourne, and everybody in Melbourne knows that Melbourne has the best coffee because every second cafe tells you that they have the best coffee. Does that mean that you have the best coffee-based fuel in the world?
I'd say so. I mean, we're very lucky to be based in, as you said, the world's best coffee city in Melbourne. The coffee is phenomenal here. So we see it as a compliment to the great work that is being done already by this industry, right from the farmers that harvest, grow, and plant the coffee, through to processing, the roasters here, the talented baristas that are actually making the coffee. We see this as the natural last step that I think is missing from this, which is collecting the waste and getting it out of landfill.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so obviously, it's a long process in putting the business together, and there's so many moving parts and people involved. What have you found has been the smallest thing that's made the biggest difference in that whole process?
That's a great question. I think the smallest thing that's made the biggest difference would be, it's just the principle of sticking with it, of having that gritty determination, of not giving up, basically. That is the simplest, smallest thing you can do that will take you through every hour, every day, every week, every month, every year to get to your goal. And I think along the way, there's a lot of roller coaster of emotions, and there are things that don't work, and people say no, and just having that determination to power through that is the simplest thing and the best piece of advice you can take to actually deliver on this. Because you're right, there's a lot of moving parts, there's a lot of different players and stakeholders, and trying to organize everyone together is pretty hard. But we're not over yet. We're still quite in the early days of our venture, but we're excited for the future as well.
For sure. And outside of your field, who do you look to for inspiration, or who do you draw upon, or what ventures really give you that spur?
Great. I think we're really lucky in Melbourne in particular, because we join some really innovative companies that have actually come from here. You think of Keep Cup, which was actually made in Melbourne 10 years ago. You think of Who Gives a Crap, which is the toilet paper, social impact company, which was again from Melbourne. You think of Thank You, which is from Melbourne. So we join these amazing brands and products that do good. I don't know what it is about Melbourne that has this great history of companies, but we definitely want to join them, and definitely inspired by them as well.
Yeah. Maybe there's something in the water. So maybe that's why the coffee's good. And how old were you when you first started drinking coffee?
Oh, too young. Probably like 12 or something. Maybe that's not that young.
And did you start off with real coffee or with the instant stuff?
I do love an instant coffee from time to time. I think it gets a bad rap, but it's not bad. It's not bad.
It does, true. Okay, here's one. So if that 12-year-old met you now, what do you think that kid would think of Max Middleweek today?
Wow, good question.
What would he make of you?
I I don't think I'd even recognize myself, really. I think it is phenomenal what you can do if you set your mind to it, and just keep chipping away at a problem, at a goal that you have. For example, I would have never thought that I would have left my hometown in Essex in the UK and be living in Australia. It's just crazy. Basically, no one does that. No one in my childhood would have done that. So, yeah, I guess I'd say just keep going. Basically, if I speak to that 12-year-old kid or anyone in the same position, I'd just say, like, keep going, keep chasing your dreams. Basically.
Yeah. And do you remember at that age what kind of things you wanted to do, or what dreams you entertained at that stage?
Oh, totally. Well, first of all, I wanted to, it's actually funny now, but I wanted to build things. So I wanted to be a builder. And then I think, oh, maybe that's too much hard work. I'll be an architect. So interestingly, I think doing this as a founder, like building a company like this is kind of following that path in a way. I think I've been somewhat true. In a strange way, it's come around back to that again, which is interesting. So
conceptually, you got there. It's just...
and building companies is super cool. Like, building a building is awesome as well, but I think a company can have so much impact across, whole cities, whole countries, even the world. Like, some of the biggest companies have so much impact on people's lives. So the potential to do so much good is really, really exciting.
Yeah. And through that, I mean, what would be the biggest challenge or issue you've had to face in terms of building that and moving it ahead to this point it's at now?
I think most people are super educated on things, on these bigger kind of challenges in society, i.e. climate change. I think most Australians acknowledge that this is happening and we need to do something about it. Problem is, it's where government and policy is lagging behind, and quite a big way behind. So I'd say for us, it's the interaction of that, larger policy, regulation, government area that is probably the biggest challenge. But I think we will get there eventually, because we have to. The rest of the world is marching faster in tackling climate change. I think there's still a massive role for Australia to play and to catch up, and we have to do it soon.
So by drinking more coffee, are we doing the right thing by the planet?
That's a great question. Coffee is the second most traded commodity in the world, which is astonishing. So we drink millions of tons of coffee globally. The farming, the cultivation, that's a whole industry, and people's livelihoods behind that. So if you do that sustainably and do close the loop at the other end, like the waste side, and there's lots of big pushes in terms of ethical sourcing of coffee, fair trade, etc. I think the industries can do better, of course, but possibly the biggest threat is climate change. That actually, as soon as 2050, we're going to see half of the crop of coffee be wiped out. And that's because coffee itself can only grow in a certain altitude and certain temperature ranges, which is going to be really drastically altered by climate change. So there's big challenges for our coffee habit. Basically, it does have impact.
Yeah, that's a big one. Well, there's the next set of big problems to tackle.
Yeah, in terms of us as consumers having coffee in Melbourne, we only see the cafe, and that's pretty much our interaction. But we often forget there is an entire economy, farmers in third world countries mainly harvesting coffee, shipping it off, often we're actually in one of the lowest prices, commodity prices for coffee the last couple of years. Right. So it's really hard for farmers, and I think we need to do more about that, I think, to help. I'm not sure what and how. But it's definitely an issue.
In terms of working throughout that whole supply chain, do you think there's ways of engaging people along the way to at least raise awareness and hopefully create a more equitable way for people to make a living, but also have a lighter impact on the planet as well?
I think it comes down to just education and awareness. I think the more we understand about where our food comes from, how it's grown, how it gets to Melbourne, what happens to it after you drink a cup of coffee, the better. I think we've seen, the war on waste, the disposable coffee cups and the issue behind that actually these coffee cups can't be recycled because they've got a plastic lining inside. So it's just education like that we need more of. And to think about respecting coffee itself, there's so much work that goes into like getting the coffee, roasting it, putting it into your cup, that just to throw it all away at the end, which is like 95% of your coffee is just thrown away. It just blows my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great that you've come up with a solution for that part of it, which is brilliant, and hopefully people get on board. So look, it's been great having you on the show. One last request: could you please describe what you do badly?
Badly? Oh wow. I'd say lots of things badly. I think in terms of how do I phrase this? If you're really pushing yourself for a big, hard, challenging goal, which I think that's what we're doing at Zero Impact, I'm pushing myself. I make lots of mistakes along the way, lots of failures, and that is actually all part of the process. To actually have success and to have something that works, you need to have a whole bunch of failures and doing things badly. So it's just embracing that failure and just accepting it, moving on and learning from that to get onto the next big failure, basically. So, yeah.
Brilliant. Well, I for one need a coffee.
Yeah.
That's been great, Max. Well, thanks so much for your time. And if anybody out there wants to get in touch, go to www.zeroimpact.co or look Max up on LinkedIn. Is there anything else you'd like to say to the world out there before we sign off?
You can check out our product and see it on our website. And we're always looking for feedback, thoughts, ideas, encouragement. So just send me an email, give me a call, like I'm all ears. So yeah, thank you.
Brilliant. Well, thanks for your time, Max. Thank you all for listening to Strange Destinations. This is coming to you on Silicon Beach Radio, and it's a co-production of Simpatico, which is there to help you create connection. We're about non-digital communications, whether it's messaging, pitching, presentation, public speaking. Look us up on the website. Cheers.